Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Eberline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On our show, we explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how law firm owners wrap every interaction with care. Because I believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of fun. Today's guest is Marlon Griffith. He's a business litigation attorney, a zealous and skillful proven litigator and counselor in Washington, D.C. Marlon Griffith is the founder and principal litigator of the Grifith Law Group. Mr. Griffith has consistently been recognized as one of the top trial lawyers in Washington, D.C., and he represents a diverse group of clients, including small to mid-sized businesses, executives, and not-for-profit entities involved in legal disputes or who want to prevent legal disputes in the Columbia, Maryland area and throughout the country. Marlon, tell our awesome audience about yourself. I feel like you have such an amazing personality that there is so much more to you than curriculum that I just read off in your bio. Tell us about yourself, Marlon.
All right. Well, who am I? I'm a native of Brooklyn, New York, by way of the West Indies, but I was raised in Brooklyn. You could probably hear that in my accent. I haven't lost it, just even though I've been living in this DC area for quite a while. I'm a big-time sports fan, all New York teams. I'm on board. I'm a family man with two wonderful kids who are now officially in college. Starting.
What? In college? Are you losing sleep or are you excited?
I think I'm all the above, right? As any parent or parents, that deal with being happy for your child or children that they're moving on to new experiences, but a sense of sadness that you won't see them every day. But I'm happy for them. I'm thinking more about my children and their experiences than me. That's
awesome. So Marlon, before we get into the real serious questions about business, I have a fun one for you. What is your favorite sandwich? Since this is called the Care Sandwich Podcast.
Well, here's a question. It used to be peanut butter and jelly. I think that's still officially a sandwich, right? It's peanut butter and jelly. But, as I've gotten a little older, it's like this is actually a sandwich shop right down the street from my office. And so it's this steak sandwich, it's steak medallions with cheddar cheese and chimichurri.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so fancy.
Arugula. I know, right?
With arugula? Oh my gosh. I did not expect that. I didn't know that existed. I gotta get on that right away. The next time I'm in your area.
That's right. I've come a long way from my PB&Js.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, you upgraded big time. So speaking about upgrading, one of the things that impressed me about you and why I wanted to have you as a guest is you definitely went from being in the public defense space and now you're in the private space. And that was a huge upgrade for your clients, I think. So walk us through what that journey was like.
Well, you know what? It's, I believe, and I went to law school to be able to give back to my community. I'm straight out of Brooklyn, as we say. And, I was raised and had friends and other people I know and saw the impact of the criminal system on people and saw the need for the quality and zealous representation of folks, right? So my law school, it just kind of took me that place, right? It was the perfect thing for me to do as far as giving back. And it also helped me develop the skill, of being a trial lawyer. Given the fact that I've tried too many cases to count, I guess. But what it really taught me that I took for granted is, the empathy as it relates to my clients and my client's situation. Quite frankly, I thought that all lawyers had empathy because we all represented individuals. And it took me a while to realize that most lawyers don't actually represent individuals. And even some who do still do not necessarily have the requisite empathy and understanding of their client's situation.
Yeah.
It's just, you're just dealing with an issue. So to me, I actually think it's a pretty natural transition. I mean, I've done all I wanted to do in the public defense space. I was there for 13 wonderful years, loved it. But I also had an entrepreneurial spirit that I wanted to explore. I always wanted to own my own business. Now, I don't know what the hell that was supposed to mean and how it's supposed to look. But that whole thing, put the shingle up on the door. That's what we always said, right? But I never really knew what that meant. Father with a lawyer with a wife and young kids. I said, to hell with it, I'm doing it, and got the support from the family that I needed. And I came out and joined a very small law firm. To get my kind of feet wet into like, what is it like to actually get paid directly from a client for the services that I provide. And that is strange, let me tell you, Margarita. That is strange. For 13 years, I never discussed money with a client.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that aspect of it. You just did the work and you focused on the people.
We just went, we just went hard. That's what we did. That's what I did. We just went hard. Money was obviously never an issue. So it was very, very strange to get into the private sector world and have to discuss money. Like, what do I charge? And what is my hourly rate? And how does that, and hey, can you pay your bill this month? I mean, that was just strange. I can't tell you that I'm really all that comfortable with it today. I don't think you ever get comfortable with it per se, given my background, but you understand it's, a necessity. But yeah, that was really the strangest thing.
So there's an interesting pattern. So you said two things that I want to expand on. You said that you didn't realize that a lot of attorneys didn't have the empathy and the money thing. I think those things are connected. So here's been my observation, and I would love your thoughts. I think, and I've observed over the years, because I've worked with attorneys for over 10 years, that a lot of attorneys, it's not that they don't begin caring. I think the job is so stressful, and it depends on the practice areas. But like, I'll give immigration attorneys as an example. They're dealing with domestic violence and, asylum cases and like really tough stuff. And what I've noticed is they get to the point where they have to have a defense mechanism for their emotions. And I can imagine in your practice area, it happens as well, right? You care so much and you deal with so much drama, right? That I think as a defense mechanism, over time, you become a little bit more callous. And I notice that the less you care, the easier it is to charge. Am I right or am I wrong?
I don't even know how to answer that question, because I don't know if it's partly who I am or just partly how I've been trained in the community that I've been in. I care about all of my clients. I don't know. I think maybe, caring, sometimes you're right, it does interfere with the financial part of the...
Like if you get too invested, you just want to fix it for them.
Just want to fix it. Right, but I would tell you a quick story that when I was a public defender, and it's something, and I won't get into the details of the case, but let's say it was a very serious case. I was representing a young man, and the jury ultimately didn't see it our way. And I remember having to go to the local jail after the trial, and I'm very disappointed because I thought the jury got it wrong, and I'm very disappointed, and I go in there. And I'm ready with my litany of, we're going to appeal this and this and that step, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And the young man meaning, late 20s, the young man looked at me and said, Mr. Griffith, I just want to thank you. I'm like, huh? He said, no one has ever fought that hard for me. And even though at that point in time, I'd been a criminal defense lawyer, public defender for a number of years, that was it just stopped me. I just stopped in my track. I was like, huh? I'm like, because I'm still, and you're still fighting. What's the next thing we can do? And starting to realize that sometimes we focus so much on results, and results matter, no doubt.
Right.
Sometimes your clients appreciate the zealousness in how you represent them.
The way you show up. Oh my gosh. That's making me emotional because I had an amazing experience as well with an attorney for a case that, that I hired them for. I remember, I mean, it was a very important case for me. And I remember feeling that same way. I remember the outcome wasn't what I had hoped for, but I was so touched by the energy that they brought into the room. Just, I don't know how to describe it, but like, it was just this nothing else matters except that my client is a human that deserves better than the way she was treated. And like, I felt like they believed it in every cell of their body, and it was just transmitted in everything that they did. And that was an amazing experience. Marlon, I know that you have a client-centered law firm, and I know we're talking about like the money piece. Let's expand a little bit more on how has having a client-centered law firm been a profitable decision for you?
Because let's deal with the reality. Let's deal with reality. What is, and if you ask typical any bar or professional responsibility, what is usually the typical issue between lawyers and clients, right? Not even a substantive issue. It's always related to some type of lack of communication, some type of lack of setting expectations. The typical response, and I know we build our law firms up a certain way, typical response from many clients is, I'm not paying to talk to your assistant. I'm not paying to talk to your answering service. Well, I've sent you an email and you haven't responded in a week. And I know you might say, look, I'm in trial, I'm in this place, I'm that place. And one of the things I've realized that, I've been in trial, and even if I cannot, at the end of the day, I'm focusing on that particular client. That if I'm in trial, that client has my complete, focus. And I think any of my other clients can appreciate that.
That's beautiful.
Their situation, they understand it. That being said, however, I still take the time to shoot off an email to the client who might be trying to reach me and say, hey, I'm in trial. As soon as we expect to be done by whatever, and it's a communication. Or if it's something that my staff, or lawyers or some other staff can deal with, I'm send that to them, to the other staff, and say, please reach out to that particular client, let them know what's going on, and see what, if anything, you can do.
Yeah.
And that's really, it's just communication, right? And, I understand some clients, only see themselves, and I understand they take advantage of it. But I don't really focus on that, because that's way more the exception than the rule. Most clients are people, and all clients are people, but most clients are understanding they got their own stress in their life, certain demands in their life. So they do understand. Most of the time, they just want to have a connection. Like, I want to know that you know that I'm trying to reach you. I want to know that you appreciate that my matter is important. Even if you can't specifically deal with whatever the issue is in this moment, I want to know, I want to have some kind of communication. And I think sometime in our profession, we don't do a good job of that. We don't do a good job of, as far as, I have updates with my clients.
Right.
About their case. Even sometimes when I don't have much to say, because in the world of litigation, sometimes things move pretty slow.
Yeah. Right?
They move pretty slow. Clients may be wondering what's going on with the case, what's happening, and whatever. So we try to make it a point to have, and this is a tip, because I know this is for a lot of lawyers.
Yes.
It's usually a good idea before you send out an invoice, particularly if it's substantial, to maybe you want to reach out to your client and just have a conversation. Not about the invoice. Not about the invoice, but about what's happening in the case.
That's a really good tip. And you described the formula, and I'm going to describe it back to you the way that I understood it. The formula that I heard is it's not like you have to get out of balance and do too much. Being thoughtful in what you do is the formula that I picked up from what you described, because as a CMO, we build a lot of automated and use automation, and we encourage lawyers to use automation. And I feel like what you're describing is, you can have the automated invoice, you can have the automated whatever, but it's important for you as a human to put some thought into specific moments where it's important to have that human touch, even if it's just to respond to an email of, I got your email, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. That human touch in those, I'm going to call them strategic moments.
Yeah.
Is such a beautiful tip and such a beautiful balance, right? Because I think a lot of attorneys get overwhelmed and they don't respond to anything because they're so busy, they're overwhelmed, and they're like, it's almost like they kind of give up. Like, my client should understand I'm in trial, I'm a litigator, right? And they just kind of give up. But the tip that you gave is so good. I think even the busiest attorney can find the time on their schedule to just touch at very unique moments.
Yes.
Yeah. So when it comes to navigating those complicated disputes that you deal with, I want you to share with the audience more about the work that you do for business owners and things like that. Now kind of taking it more into the practical context of how you care for your clients.
Sure.
Describe to me the sort of clients that you help and how you help them more from like a legal perspective.
Sure. Well, I use this analogies. I honestly think that what I do really relates, and it's been consistent throughout my entire career. It kind of relates to my public defender background. Is what is the key about the typical client that a public defender represents, right? Is that the government is alleging that they did something. Liberty is at stake. So it can be, when you have the big bad government, in that instance, it can be very overwhelming. So it's me and other public defenders standing right there, right, as the hurricane is coming and saying, I got you.
Yeah.
Right? I got you. So let's now fast forward to us, small business owners.
Yep.
Right? Let's be real. The small business owner, we got so much headwinds coming our way at times, right? Those in our circle maybe sometimes only see what we call the bling, right? They only see, oh, you have a name, you have a website, you have this, oh, you're all doing great. But we know as business owners the daily grind that's involved in that. And we are more than willing to do it because we're trying to make a better life for ourselves, for our families, for our loved ones. We're the superheroes, right? We want to be superheroes for our family. But like every superhero has a villain, unfortunately. And sometimes the villain comes in different shapes and different sizes. And sometimes the villains are the government. Sometimes the villain is another vendor, another business trying to attack you. Sometimes the villain is a former employee saying that, you did something. So, a lot of smaller businesses are in a situation where they are, they're in that space where they're not the Amazons of the world, right? So they're not the big law corporation type law firms are not going to represent them.
So to a small business owner, somebody like an employee coming after them or another business doing something to them to hurt them feels like the government to an individual. It's that overwhelming.
As you know, as my tagline, and I really mean it. We represent the Davids. We defend the Davids from the Goliaths. And the Goliaths takes many different shapes, right? But you do feel like it's just you, the little, quote unquote, the little small business owner.
Yeah.
And again, small business could be 100 employees. It could be a $10 million revenue. It could be $50 million revenue. That's still considered a small business in America.
Give us the brackets again. Give us the brackets again. From what range to what range is considered a small business?
According to to the SBA, 50 million in revenue or less, roughly, is considered a small business because we don't realize how much money corporations, they make, right? So it's 200 million sounds like a lot of money, right? It sounds like to the average person, but when you compare that to corporations, particularly publicly traded corporations, that's a drop in the bucket. So the point is and my key is that when I focus on small and mid-sized business owners, the owners still own the business. It's their business, right? So I'm really I represent the business, but I'm working with the business owner.
Right. It's almost like an extension of them, really.
It is. It's them.
Yeah.
It represents them. And you talk to any business owner, I don't care the size of their business, whether it's a just started a six-figure business or whether it's a $200 million, it's them. Right? They built it. It's their name. It's them. So it's personal. So when someone comes after their company, it's like coming after them. And that's the difference. In corporate America, when somebody sues the corporation, the CEO don't take it personal. It's a business. It's whatever.
Yeah.
It's the CEO. But if it's your small or mid-sized business, they tend to take it personally.
Yeah. It's in the jugular. Yeah.
As a lawyer representing, that's where the empathy matters, right? It's really understanding matters. Is that, as I say, I know I help my clients sleep through the night. because they're the ones who toss it back and forth at night trying to figure out how can I resolve this dispute? What's going to happen? Is my business? Am I going to lose my business? Am I going to take a loss in my business? That's what we all think about, right? That's what we all think about. And so I get that. So, these superheroes, as I call them, these superheroes, they need, as I call it, they need Alfred, right? Because every superhero has that guy, right? Every superhero has that person's in the back.
For those of you that don't know who Alfred is, it's a Batman reference. Alfred was the guy that always had Batman's cars ready to go. He always cleaned up his guns.
That's right. Never got any of the credit. He just stood and he was fine staying in the back, right? But he made sure that Batman could go and do what Batman needed to do, right? And that's how I see my role often with my business clients, right? I'm the Alfred. I'm there to support them, to protect them, do what needs to be done so they can continue to be Superman or Superwoman or Batman or Batwoman for their family, for the people, for their employees, for the other people who depend on them. Because as a business owner myself, I understand the stress.
You're living it. You're living it along with your clients. Yeah.
I'm living it. The 1st and the 15th means something different to us. We're trying to make payroll. That's all about. If you're a W-2, you're getting paid.
I just got triggered again.
Yeah. That's the difference, right?
Yeah. Wow. So I'm just going to recap a couple of things. So when you have a business and you're a business owner and you're in trouble, if you're below the bracket that you gave, you would be the one to help. When you are wanting to prevent nonsense from coming into your business, you're also the one to call, right? Walk us through how you help people prevent, because you've seen all the ugly things that can happen in a business scenario in the legal landscape and the mistakes that people make, the exposure that they have. I bet you're the person that can help prevent a lot of issues from even arising. So walk me through that. Like people that are at that stage of their business where they don't have any problems that they know of.
Yep.
How can you help them?
So the best way I can do is let me show you a perfect example that just happened yesterday with a potential client. The business doesn't matter, but the client is trying to do a deal with another individual, in which is going to involve payment to that individual for the services they provide. And the client sent me some type of agreement, I guess, that the other individual had created. And be honest, it clearly was created from a Google or
for his benefit. Yeah.
And it's sent. And of course, it has a lot of confusing language in there for me. So this is how I deal with my clients. So we had a call, and I figure out what it is you're trying to accomplish, so we can figure out the best way to do it.
I love that.
And determine whether that vehicle that you sent me is the right vehicle to use, or how we can then revise that vehicle to fit your objectives.
I love that. I would imagine a lazier attorney would probably say, okay, here you go. Here's your bill. One and done. And you're going the extra step.
I am not. Let me just put it this way. I am thorough in what I do. And I think the strength is I'm practical, and I try to get a bigger picture of what is the client trying to accomplish. What are you trying to accomplish? What does next 6 months look like for you? What's the next year look like for you? Right? So that's what I think. That's where the counseling comes in. And obviously, because you got to understand your client's objectives, that's how you can then create whatever the relevant agreement is or the appropriate.
Right.
So ultimately then eliminate, or not, you never eliminate, but minimize disputes in the future. But if the event that there is a dispute, and this is what most people don't understand about how you avoid disputes. Disputes happen. It's disagreements. I mean, it's like being married. You're going to have disagreements. But the key about it is it's not about avoiding disputes. It's about resolving disputes. And when you have certain agreements that are pretty clear, then parties can look at it and say, okay, this is how we needed to resolve this, or this is what the understanding was. Do I think I'm getting a good deal here? As opposed to having language that is so either abstract, unclear, and you take it to any lawyer, hey, we can argue this. Let's argue this.
Right. That's wonderful. So what I'm hearing is if somebody has a business and they don't have any issues that they know about, you can help them review agreements to make sure that they're actually aligned with their overall business objectives or the objective with that relationship that agreement is for. you can help make sure that the language is clear enough so that if and when something does happen and there's a disagreement, there's a path to move forward. Ambiguity in contracts is so frustrating. I can relate.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Yes.
And again, I'm going to be honest, because some lawyers purposely write contracts that way. Some agreements are very ambiguous. Some of the terms are very ambiguous, which means that it's left up to interpretation. That's usually a clear step for litigation. Because if it's ambiguous, then one party can have interpretation, another party will have an interpretation, and then those parties ultimately take it to a fact finder or a judge to try to get the ultimate interpretation of language. That's not good for that upsets the way you're trying to run your business. The other thing I've often seen with agreements where you have lawyers write agreements that are completely, it hamstrings the parties. And they purposely write it that way so that parties are kind of stuck, as we say, stuck in those agreements, so that even if you don't think you're getting the benefit of the bargain anymore, it's going to be way too costly for you to litigate that issue. And you often see those kind of agreements where you are the little guy and you got an agreement with one of the big boys, right? Typically like in a subcontractor agreement or whatever, where they purposely put certain types of language. For example, they put language in there that relates to an arbitration, and they'll have the arbitration in a certain location. Let's say that you're a DC-based business, you're doing a contract with a California business, and the big boy says, well, we're going to do arbitration, but it has to be in California. Now, you don't really think about that as a big deal, but let's now imagine if you have to do arbitration in California, someone has to travel there. That's a lot of money. Then the next thing that they put in there, when just relating to the arbitration clause, is, oh, we're going to have 3 arbitrators. You get one, you get to pay. You have to pay for your arbitrator. They'll pay for their arbitrator, and then the third arbitrator, we'll share that cost. Well, an arbitrator is a lawyer, so you're basically paying every hour of arbitration. You'll be paying for 3.5 lawyers. Because remember, you got to pay for your lawyer to defend you, pay for the arbitrator that you chose, and then you pay for the third arbitrator. So that's 2.5 lawyers. That's what you'll be paying for. So if a lawyer is charging $500 an hour, everybody's charging $500 an hour, you're basically paying $1,250 for every hour that arbitration is taking place. Now, for a small business, you can't afford that. Most small businesses can't afford that. And a lot of times, the amount of dispute is not worth that much. So big boys usually put that type of language, which is all negotiable, by the way. They put all stuff like that in an agreement. And most smaller businesses just want to get the deal done. How much am I going to get paid? What do I need to do to get paid? And that's all they're really thinking about, not the other fine prints. And I understand you're supposed to be thinking about the benefit of the bargain, the deal that you get. Your counsel is supposed to be thinking about those things in the event something goes wrong.
Well, Marlon, this has been amazing. I think that this content is going to be so valuable for so many business owners. I know I learned a lot, and I learn from you every time we talk, but this was just really, really valuable. And I want to invite you to just give us a couple of bullet points of how can people get a hold of you. They heard something and they're like, I didn't think I want to talk to this guy about this thing. So give us some bullet points of how can people get a hold of you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to listening to all of your future podcasts. So if you want to reach me, you can reach me at griffithlawgroupdc.com or glgdc.com. We are also on Instagram, Facebook at the Griffith Law Group, Twitter, and I also have a podcast called Kicking Ass and Taking Names by Marlon Griffith Esquire, a podcast for small and mid-sized business owners on law, business, and life, where we discuss much of what I've discussed in this podcast and have some wonderful guests like Margarita, who will be coming on before she knows it. But it's focused toward, the small and mid-sized business owners so they can continue to kick ass and take names in their chosen business endeavors.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Marlon, for your time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Remember, the way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves can make all the difference in our law firm's success. If you're a law firm owner looking to supercharge your growth, our team at Marketing Boss is here to help. With over a decade of experience and a proven track record, we specialize in taking law firms to new heights with expert marketing strategies.